Hi guys, welcome to my channel. This is going to be a different type of video today, so it's not going to be makeup. So if you wanted to see a makeup video, unfortunately it won't be in this one. So I wanted to kind of just touch base with where I've been, what I've been up to, and kind of like a life update. I've been getting a lot of questions about, where have you been? What have you been up to? Why did you disappear from the makeup industry, the beauty community? I have been going through so many different things that life has just hit at me that I don't even know where to begin. This journey that I've been on and this spiritual awakening that has been happening for the past 3 years. I did not want to do this video. I still don't want to do this video, but I feel that if I don't do this video, then it's kind of like everything that I went through, like what was the whole point? Even if I just reach out to one person, that's really all that matters to me. And I know you guys are probably like, what is she talking about? So I want to just start off with the first thing that started happening to me, where it basically just stopped me in my tracks. So the unveiling began in September of 2015. My health just took a turn for the worse. I got so ill that I wasn't even sure at one point if I was going to live, because organs were literally failing. Without your health, you have nothing, and I really needed to get that taken care of. I ended up having surgery that was medically necessary. Because I was so sick, everything was making me sick. The reason why I'm bringing up my health is because it's all part of my journey that I've been going through, and just part of the rude awakening that I've had. And a spiritual awakening by no means is a fairy tale or rainbows and butterflies. In fact, it's quite the opposite, because you are opening your eyes to things that you either never saw before or were asleep to, or the whole term woke. I think it kind of cheapens what you actually go through, because it's so much more than being woke. It is such a long process to go through any type of awakening, because you're basically like an onion and removing layer after layer of things that you were taught to be the truth, things that you're just taught in school, things that you're taught in every day-to-day life. And you start to feel and you start to notice that you're integrating into a different person. And that's exactly what was going on with me, and I fought it along the way. I didn't want to transform or transition into being a different type of person, because I was complacent with who I was, what my desires were, what my passions were. Another thing that I had to really learn about myself and kind of hone into was being an empath. And if a lot of you don't know what that is, it's basically taking on the feelings of others. Going into large crowds and being around a lot of people all at once was really overwhelming for me. I didn't know if these were my feelings or someone else's. So, like for instance, if my husband came home and he was really anxious, then all of a sudden I felt anxious. And it took a long time for me to realize that these weren't even my own feelings at all. So I had to really, really hone into knowing how to differentiate the two and know what my feelings are, because sometimes I would just get mad just out of nowhere for no reason, and I would have no idea why. And they say that a lot of empaths have digestive issues. So bingo, I mean, that for me is like spot on. And then that we also have back issues, and I have a really bad back. And they say that empaths that are going through their spiritual awakenings, that all of these physical chronic illnesses can become magnified. And that's basically what I was taking on when mine began. It is such a long process, because you're integrating into a completely different person, a person that you're not even familiar with, a person that you don't even know what the hell is going on, but you kind of just go along with it, because you find yourself no longer relating to who you once were. And that's kind of where I was at that time. It also makes you have to take a look at yourself and what you've done in your life and where you're at in your life, and if you're happy with that. You have to try and unpack all of the baggage that you've carried that you didn't even realize that you were carrying. All of this animosity or grudges or just negative feelings that you've carried on for so long, and it kind of just one day just smacks you in the face like you need to deal with this. You just have to basically deal with the things that you thought you dealt with but you never did. And so why do I feel like all of these old scars are now new wounds? I basically was on a search to find out, who I was, through the inner core of my soul and what I wanted out of life and where I was going to go. And to be honest, I started feeling like I wanted to do something that mattered in life, and I started to look at makeup as being very superficial, and that's not to knock anybody for doing this as a career at all. It was just something that happened to me, and it kind of reminded me of other things that I've kept to myself, which is my activism. I've been very, very anonymous with it. I never wanted to go public with it. I never wanted to share the things that I would do. I never ever wanted to let anybody in on who I was in that area of my life. I never wanted to share that, and I don't know if it was because I was shy or introverted or embarrassed. I mean, I couldn't even tell you. It was just something that I kept to myself, and I really didn't want to go public with it. I didn't want to, just be all out in the open about the things that I would fight for. And I started to feel like the beauty industry, that maybe this wasn't for me, and that's why I've been MIA. Well, this is why I haven't really been on Instagram or Snapchat. So what I ended up doing was I began to withdraw from the tasks that I had to do on an everyday to day basis with makeup, with my brand, Cryptic, and just in general, being present on social media. I just completely just backed away. At first it was gradual, and then it was just boom, I was just gone. I have been getting a lot of your guys' messages and DMs and private messages, and just thank you guys so much. I miss you guys too, as I started to fight where I was going emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, and I didn't want to transition to being someone else. I kind of wanted my safety net and to just kind of stay where I was, which was, in the beauty community. And it wasn't just the beauty community. It was so many other things that I started to kind of refrain from, and it was just almost like my eyes were opening up to so much, and I was scared of it. And the more that I fought it, the more I kept trying to hold on to my old self, the worse things got. I became so introverted that the isolation just set in. It was really lonely. And a lot of New Agers, they call it the dark night of the soul. When you're going through this transition, because of the spiritual awakening that you're going through, it's a really rough time, because you don't even recognize yourself. You don't really know what to do, and it makes you feel bad, and it makes you feel guilty because so many people expect so much from you, and everybody's used to you being a certain way. I applied so much pressure onto myself, and it made me feel like crap, and I was just like, I didn't want to feel that way anymore. So what I ended up doing is I started to give in to what was going on. Wherever the universe was taking me, I was just like, okay, this is what I gotta do. I gotta follow through, go through this ride, and see where it takes me. I wanted something to feed my soul, and I felt like with makeup, it was no longer feeding my soul. And I wanted to get out there and help people, and I wanted to make a difference. We all have our own egos, and so when I bring up the word ego, I don't necessarily mean it in a negative way. I just mean it in a more worldly way. So the ego would be like, oh, I want to advance in my career, I want to do good, I want to continue to post more, and this and this and that. But for me, it was more like, why is everything about me? I don't want it to be about me. I want to do things for other people. I want to get out there and somehow make a difference, and even if it was just one person's life. With the ego, you go through these feelings of competitiveness, even if it's just within yourself. You go through just the self-ridicule, being your own worst critic, and I was trying to get the ego just completely removed. Once I got to that point, I started to notice that I no longer cared about the other things that I used to care about. I no longer had inspiration with those things, like for instance, makeup, or even with like my brand. Like I literally had no desire, motivation, or inspiration, and it was really, really hard, especially with my brand. That one, it still hurts so bad, like right here. I mean, I definitely have no regrets. I loved what I was doing when I was, really happy about it. And I loved inspiring others and being creative and, just showing my artistry. But then I started to feel like that was just feeding my own ego on a lower self level. I found myself to come to the conclusion that that was no longer working for me. So when I think of my old self, I literally think of that as being a completely different person. I just can't relate to who I used to be anymore. When your mind, body, and spirit are not all intertwined and connected, things can get really, really unsettling. And mine are somewhat getting onto that same page finally. A spiritual awakening can take, there's really no set amount of time, but it can take someone a year, it could take someone 2 years, it could take someone 3 years, it could take someone 2 months. It's been ongoing for me, and we are on year 3. And that's when it's like a spiritual depression sets in. I wasn't depressed, but going back to calling it the dark night of the soul is a really, really good description, because I felt this spiritual depressive state because I felt like I wasn't fulfilled anymore with what I was doing. And so when I moved on to things that were fulfilling me, I still had guilt about the other things in my old life and my old self. It was beyond devastating to no longer have that passion for makeup. I mean, I've always been a lover of makeup since I can remember. I mean, even before I was 5 years old, I was trying to wear lip gloss and lipstick. I mean, these things used to motivate me and inspire me so much. And so when that's just kind of yanked from you, you really don't know how to cope with that. It was so lonely. It was such a dark time. It brought on so much self-doubt and just low self-esteem that I've never had in my life. The self-doubt has always been there, just being your own worst critic and just being really hard on yourself. And I've been like that perfectionist type of person. So I was used to that, but I wasn't used to bringing on more self-doubt and just kind of like, what am I doing in my life? Where am I going? Why am I here? I found myself really enjoying doing these other things that weren't what I was used to doing. You're at a different place, and you experience this awakening that kind of, it doesn't have the blinders and the goggles on you anymore. The earplugs are out, and you're just kind of looking around at things and just noticing like, wow, this was who I was. This is what I was about. This is what I was doing. And when you're going through this type of spiritual awakening, I'm a believer in God. So God began to remove a lot of people out of my life. And I fought him on it. I really, really did, because I didn't want to lose these people. Not by any means. I didn't want to lose them at all. He kept trying to show me all of these things, and I wasn't having it. And the more I fought it, the more I ignored it, the more I denied it, the worse things got. And things resulted much worse than they should have. And I think the reason why that kind of started to happen was because I became more guarded of myself, my time, my feelings, my energy. And I was no longer that person that people were used to. And so it's like everybody had to go through this change with me, and some didn't make it with me, and the OGs did, and they know who they are. So with this whole spiritual awakening, I just wanted to give you guys a rundown, and I'm going to get in much more details with the next video. It basically will be stemming from my spirituality and my belief in God. It's going to talk about some supernatural things that happened, that occurred. Like I said, I did not want to talk about this. Discussing something so personal and private to the public is just a total nightmare for me, and I have fought it and fought it and fought it, but I need to get my testimony out there. So it wasn't just my health that was failing. I had some really bad injuries, and I'm going to go into more details in the next video about all of that and what I went through, because there will be a part 2, maybe a part 3. There is some crazy stuff that happened. If I don't share my testimony, it's almost like, what was the whole point? And to me, that's just not okay. I really don't want to get into it. I need to step out of my comfort zone and just do it.